It's time for MacBreak Weekly, episode 211 from Tidbits. Adam Engst joins Andy Ihnatko and me to talk about the latest Mac news, including the fallout from Apple's new social network, or anti-social network, Ping, and a look at streaming music solutions. It's all coming up next with MacBreak Weekly. Stay here.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 211, recorded September 7th, 2010. Don't touch it, please. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by GoToMeeting. Improve your conference calls and keep everyone on the same page when you share your screen with GoToMeeting. For your free 30-day trial, visit gotomeeting.com/MacBreak. And by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to publish a high-quality website or blog. For a free trial and 10% off your new account, go to squarespace.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show that covers everything to do with the Apple universe. Macintosh, iPod, iPhone, iPad. And with us today, of course, as usual, from the Chicago Sun-Times and the celestial waste of bandwidth, Mr. Andy Ihnatko.
Hello, Leo.
It's good to see you again, Andy.
How's your dude doing?
My dude is doing good. You like my new dude? He's good.
Exactly.
Alex couldn't be with us. He is in London, Londinium, as they used to call it. But we have a great sub who came in at the last moment, off the bench, Mr. Adam Engst of the Tidbits newsletter. Hey, Adam.
Hello, Leo. Thanks for having me.
Tidbits is, of course, the place to go to get the Apple news that you really care for. If you really want real Apple news, don't listen to this.
Because we just don't have the time to do all the drama and soap opera stuff.
All the BS. That's right. No, Tidbits is a must-read, everybody. And you've been doing this for more than 10 years, which is amazing.
20 years?
20.
20? I'm dating myself. I know.
That's right. You go to the front page, it says 20 years. That's awesome. In 8-bit type, no less. tidbits.com. It's free to subscribe to. It's advertising supported. I like advertising supported media, as you know. So I'm thrilled that you've been able to make this make a go of this. Latest stories from Tidbits this week. What's wrong with digital cameras? The fall and open source rise of Google Wave. Autodesk. Apple Mail. Flawed parental controls. The future of books. You see how serious this stuff is. No drama, just facts. But now we're going to get the drama.
They even think that high ASCII is a little bit too flashy and distracting from the meat of the article.
That's right. That's right. So
no M-dashes for Tidbits, double hyphens all the way.
If you haven't yet listened to our coverage of Apple's announcement from last Wednesday, please do. It's in the Twit specials, twit.tv/specials. Also, of course, MacBreak Weekly immediately after, where we talk about it. But now we've had almost a week to think about it. By the way, I should point out, Google, taking a page from the Apple playbook, has a big announcement tomorrow.
Yep.
They sent out the invites.
And it's actually right across the street from the Yerba Buena Gardens at the SF MoMA, which made me wonder. It's a search-based event. Just like Apple, it's 1 week notice. Just like Apple, they're not saying exactly what they're announcing, but from the name of the event and also from the fact that all the personnel are from the search products, we know it's not going to be like a second unveiling of Google TV or anything cool like that. It is going to be something related to their search technology.
It's actually going to be a scavenger hunt. Got to go around finding the right art.
Actually, we don't even have any news. We just wanted to see how many of you could afford to come to San Francisco on a week's notice. We hate all reporters. We just wanted to really throw our weight around like that.
They did say, in their defense, it's a search event. So, and they've done these before, where there really is kind of state of the search, not so much here's a new product. But we are waiting for the other shoe to drop, and they have said this week, yes, we will do Google Music before the end of the year. Google TV is still coming on strong. In fact, Samsung now is hinting that they may put Google TV in their boxes along with Sony, Dish, and of course Logitech. And we're still waiting, although Google's never confirmed this, for a Facebook killer or clone, Google Me. So, so potentially Google could have a lot of announcements, but it doesn't sound like it will be tomorrow. Won't that be a surprise when it is?
Yeah, and plus that's not really their style to have the big, let's rent out this big flashy auditorium and darken the stage and send somebody out in an ascot to really show our stuff. It's always the Google developer event that they decide to play most of their cards.
Right. At some point, they're going to have an event announcing Google Music, I would think.
Yeah, but it's kind of hard to know exactly when they're going to be pulling the trigger on that.
One thing we talked about last week was Apple TV and what looked like Apple. The analogy I end up using is a poker analogy, that Apple checked to the leader here. Instead of saying, okay, we're going to put apps on Apple TV, they kind of held their powder, and I think they're waiting to see what Google TV does. We know it'll have apps. It's going to be Android-based. And, of course, as we observed last week, there's nothing to keep Apple from turning on apps at some point. We haven't talked to you, Adam, about this. What is your thought on the Apple TV?
Well, as Andy knows, I'm kind of a bad Apple TV commentator in some ways because I don't really watch TV. And
that's why you have so much time to write and run and things like that. I hate you.
You know, the problem in part, a little TV history. So, I grew up when there were 3 channels.
Right.
And so, you just wasn't anything to watch. I didn't grow up anywhere where there's cable. And so you watched, there was CBS, ABC, and NBC, and that was it. And and PBS, which we also got. So the 4 channels. And you just didn't watch much TV because there wasn't much to watch, and there wasn't, frankly, that much that was very good. And my parents were not big TV people, so what we watched all as a family, and MASH, Cosby Show, a couple of other things. That's about it. And so as I moved, I never got cable, and so it wasn't until 2001 that I actually ever had cable. Even when we lived in Seattle, we were in places that didn't have cable. And so we get back to Ithaca, and Time Warner says, "Hey, you want this great digital cable? It's it's going to be cheap. It's tons of channels, all that." Okay, great. So we get this. We plug in our TiVo. Our TiVo happily is sucking in all this content. It's fabulous. And then we discover that most of what's on just really sucks. And so we've got, it's kind of embarrassing that, 57 channels and nothing on? It was way more than 57 channels and nothing on. And the things we did like, the TiVo got and held for us, and it just, I don't know, it just wasn't that much. And so at some point we realized we were paying like $80 or $100 a month for this, and just got sick of it and ditched it entirely, and watched the TiVo down, finally cleaned out the TiVo, and then subscribed to Netflix for $8.99 a month. And Netflix $8.99 a month, particularly with all the streaming stuff they have now, keeps us in all the TV we want.
That's probably true, and it's going to be more so. And Apple TV does have Netflix.
Yeah, and so so actually, honestly, I'm actually pretty happy about the new Apple TV, almost purely from the Netflix standpoint, because it makes a good streaming thing for to watch all the stuff that Netflix is putting out in streaming. And what I don't quite know yet is, it says you'll be able to connect to your computers and watch anything on your computers. So if I rip a DVD and I have it on my computer, I can watch it on the Apple TV, but do I have to do some additional conversion? Am I going to basically be manipulating these files into a gazillion different formats? And that's one of the questions I have. So if Netflix sends me a DVD, how do I watch that on my Apple TV?
You probably don't. I would guess.
Yeah, but
I guess you could. Yeah, you're right. If you put it in iTunes, it'll stream something from iTunes.
And see, again, I'm betraying my TV cluelessness here, but we've never had a DVD player hooked to a TV.
Okay, I'm asking the wrong person, obviously.
I realize they're $37 at Target, but I have a computer for that.
You can even get Dr. Zhivago on DVD now. It's actually quite a mature platform.
It would be a mistake for me to ask Adam if he cares that it's only 720p. Obviously, on your 21-inch Philco, it probably looks just fine.
The 19-inch Sony, actually, that we've had since 1990.
Okay, see, I actually wasn't far off, was I?
Made out of 80% recycled timber, no more than 2% old growth.
Yeah, we're thinking about powering the whole thing from a bicycle soon. So
Do you think in terms? I mean, okay, so now you have to do it very abstractly, Adam, because you're not the potential customer for this. But do you think Google poses a threat? Maybe really you are the wrong person to ask. But does Google pose a threat to Apple?
Yeah, I mean, what I find interesting about this whole thing, and I realize I'm coming at it from an unusual standpoint, because what is it? The average American watches 4 hours of television
At
a day?
least, yeah. It's going up. That's what surprises me.
Yeah, I don't know how they're doing that.
Yeah.
But so it feels to me that one of the problems that Apple is getting into is that Apple really, really wants people to rent TV shows and movies.
And that's the wrong direction, because that's not what people want right now.
Well, not
Precisely.
necessarily.
Well, but didn't Amazon immediately counter with 99-cent buy?
Yeah.
So
yeah. The problem is just simply that there is so much out there that it feels to me like you're going to be competing with free very quickly, and I have to believe that Google's going to do whatever they possibly can to get stuff for free.
Andy, what do you think?
Well, I just think that someone told me when we were discussing this a week ago that their theory is that just like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, Apple decided that there's going to be a rule that you don't do something on CD unless you can. You don't do something via wired unless you can do it wirelessly. That was really brought home with the MacBook Air. And now there's a new offshoot of that, which is that don't do anything that requires storage unless you can do it from the cloud. And there are a lot of different operations in which there's no need to assume that someone really wants to have a 18 gigabyte HD episode of House MD on their hard drive in perpetuity. If I had the choice between $2.99 to have it forever, and 99 cents means that I watch it, I'm done with it, and it's not cluttering up my hard drive anymore. TV is largely disposable entertainment. It's not like a movie where you might dip back into it every few months. So it's a very, very interesting application of this idea. Now, I didn't anticipate that Amazon would drop down their prices to, well, how about 99 cents and you get to keep it.
And so by the way, you don't even have to store it. You can watch it anytime. It's in your library.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Amazon is mostly they don't even do a download service, do they? You own it, but it's I don't know. Yeah, I believe it just adds to your on-demand library permanently.
Yep. It's a digital
so you always
locker
have access
thing.
to it, right? So we're still dealing with the concept of no one wants to tie up that many gigabytes of HD storage on their hard drive for last week's Gilmore Girls. Yeah. That's even still on. I don't watch much TV either.
It's ironic though, because Apple is the company that has said time and time again people want to own music. Now I know music's different than TV and movies, but Apple won't let you rent music, but they insist that you rent TV and movies. Is it so different? Don't people want to own stuff? Isn't Apple right about that?
I think that Danny's right. The storage is just insane now. That when you start ripping DVDs and downloading shows and whatnot, it just adds up so fast. And yes, discs are cheap, but how much time and effort do you want to put into managing this library? That and just from a technical standpoint, I'm slightly offended by it all because it's the same bits everywhere. Why should everyone who owns a copy of this have the same bits? We have enough bandwidth to move this stuff around really, really easily at this point. And so, what I like, I'm not bothered by Apple sort of wanting to rent stuff for 99 cents, but it really feels to me like almost the Netflix model of $9 a month or whatever for all you can eat, streamed whenever you want, whatever you want. That's going to be that's hard to beat.
It's interesting, though. Again, I'll throw in another monkey wrench. You're transferring the cost of storage from the consumer to yourself. Apple now has to stream and store this. If I watch the same show 4 times, that's 4 times the bandwidth of a download. And I have to, storage, okay, that's de minimis because you're storing it anyway.
Are you really going to watch the same show 4 times?
Well, some people will. I
don't watch the same show first 4 times.
But that's potentially costly. If you download it once and you store it, then the consumer is eating the cost of watching it.
I think the real feature is just from the consumer point of view, removing the problem of finding where this thing is stored and connecting to that. I have probably 4 copies of The Godfather around this house between physical and digital copies, and yet when I needed something cool to watch while I was cooking on Sunday, the idea that I can just simply tap 3 buttons and get it on Netflix on my iPad, Netflix was the place I wound up getting it from because it's the simplest place to go and find it. So maybe that's the feature.
And by the way, we know people watch video over and over. Otherwise, you wouldn't see YouTube video counts in the tens of millions. Somebody's watching it more than once, I think.
Well, and I think it does depend a little on the thing.
My
Movies,
wife
obviously.
watched Dick in a Box like 80 times. I don't know why.
And we have a show title.
Just not touching that one.
And just don't touch it, please.
And we have another show title.
All right, I'm going to move on here. Let's move on. I think it's an interesting subject, and clearly Apple has put a stake in the ground for simplicity versus complexity. And I think that they're saying, maybe it isn't a pure check. Maybe they're saying, is we're going to opt for simplicity, watch Google do the complex thing, just as they're doing on the phones, and we'll see who wins.
Well, here's the thing, though. A lot of people do have those cable connections. They have this stuff. They're paying some amount for the big pipe of all they can eat. And they want to be able to extract stuff from that. And that's, I think, what people are complaining about with the Apple TV is, like, well, I already have cable. Why aren't you helping me do something along making
something different? Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the people who want TiVo to be built into the Apple TV. And that does change matters because then you've got storage, it's bigger, it's hotter.
Well, and that's what Microsoft is doing. That's the Microsoft solution, is basically a TiVo.
But see, here's what Apple, and I don't know enough about what Google's doing, but imagine that you could pay someone else, sort of like the way I pay Netflix, and get that full cable feed into, or stream to your Apple TV whenever you wanted, whatever you wanted, on demand.
Well, that was kind of my thinking if you put apps in there, you could have an HBO app, you could have a Showtime app, you'd probably have an MTV app. And in fact, it'd be in MTV's interest because they'd make a richer app that had much more engagement and interactivity than just watching MTV on a TV.
Oh, I mean, if it's an app, Apple could put iAds in it.
Yeah, and Apple makes money because they're going to get 30% of any subscription fees, and yes, they can monetize with ads. So it seems like it's in Apple's interest to do apps. Ultimately, I suspect that the pundits who say, well, and maybe it was you, Andy, who said that last week. Maybe there's no apps now, but there's nothing to keep them. It's clearly an iOS-based device. It's got an A4.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the over/under on how many days you have to wait until somebody jailbreaks the Apple TV. I'm betting less than a week. My money's on 4 days.
Because you have to assume that as soon as people get that box, that's what they're doing.
I can't wait. Well, they may be getting it soon. I just got my shipping notice that my iPod Nano is coming. iLounge has already done an unboxing on the new iPod Shuffle, so they are shipping. Apparently, iPod Touches are also shipping. I haven't seen any word about people's iTV or Apple TVs coming out, but it may not be too much longer. When did they say the Apple TV would be available? Next month?
End of
next
month,
4 weeks.
End of next month. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. No, 4 weeks. So
my new wristwatch is on its way.
How come Apple's never put something on a wristwatch?
It is a wristwatch. It's got a clock face. I'm going to clip it to my... I'm not going to wear a band. I'm just going to clip it somewhere. Now, you're a runner. Are you excited about the new Nano?
I have to admit, I run with people, so,
You run with people?
Yeah, there's the carbon-voiced life form things.
That's weird.
People let you down. It's a very analog technology, Adam.
Great.
Gonna bite you right in the ass. Some of them actually do bite you in the ass.
Do you use the Nike? Do you use the Nike thing, Adam? Because I know there's a Nike GPS app in the.
I do not use the Nike thing. When I tested it back early when it came out, it simply wasn't accurate enough.
Oh, interesting.
That, if there's nothing that makes a runner more and more irritated, it's being given statistics that are wrong.
I think the new one, because it's using the phone's GPS, will be much better. My experience with tracking on the Android has been it's
GPS
very
is
accurate.
good.
Yeah, very accurate.
I use a Garmin Forerunner 305, which is a GPS watch. Oh, look, it's right here.
It's honking huge.
It is pretty big, but on the other hand, you want it to be big so you can read it while you're going. I mean, you need to be able to see what you're doing, and it's got all sorts of kind of cool features. Like you can have it, automatically tell you what the last mile was. You can actually have it yell at you if you're not running fast enough or if you're running too fast. That kind of thing.
That's something I don't hear a lot. You're running too fast. Slow down, Leo.
I don't hear that either. I actually had it yell at me to make me speed up in a race yesterday, and it didn't actually work. But it was nice. I finished that I wasn't running fast enough the whole way.
They need to program it with your mom's voice. Adam, Adam, run faster, Adam.
I didn't finish as high in the rankings as I hoped I would. I think that has largely to do with the time that I spent in running the course.
Yeah,
and I've dated,
me
and
too.
I've dated to back that up.
Look at that. Pie face. He's got a pie face. Amazing. All right, we're going to take a break. We've got Adam Engst here from Tidbits, Andy Ihnatko from the Chicago Sun-Times, Leo Laporte here. Hey, Andy, one of these days I'd love to see if we can get Roger Ebert on the show. Your co-worker at the Sun-Times.
I'll talk to him about it. I was when I was in Chicago, I spent about 3-4 hours at the house. Had a good time.
Oh, man. And his new synthesizers, I was listening to it. Sounds just like him.
Yep.
He could do this show.
He could do this show while blogging and tweeting at the same time, and doing all three so well that we'd be working at UPS the next day voluntarily.
We're going to take a break and talk a little bit about our friends at Citrix. If you are going to meetings by flying or driving, man, you're spending a lot of money on travel unnecessarily. Worse, if you're in a conference call, you're just killing yourself. That boredom, the crossed eyes, you can tell. And if you're leading the conference call, you know when it gets real quiet. They're off doing email, playing video games, Farmville, doing anything, combing their beards, anything but paying attention. And that's why well done, Andy. We timed that out perfectly. And that's why I recommend GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting takes those conference calls, makes them engaging, exciting, because they're visual suddenly. It's very easy to install and set up. You can do it on a Mac or PC. Yes, it works with Windows. If you go to gotomeeting.com/MacBreak, you'll have it installed before I'm done talking. Actually, that's not saying much since I pretty much talk all day. But let's say soon, in minutes, maybe seconds. Very quick to install. And now you're ready. Next time you're going to have a meeting, you could do it ahead of time by sending out an invitation or on the fly. You tell your board conferees, stop combing your beard and go to gotomeeting.com. Here's the meeting ID. They enter it in. Now they're seeing their computer on their screen, even if they haven't had it installed, because it's very quick. They have to download a little tiny stub. I think it's 40K or something. And boom, boom, they're seeing your screen. Not only that, they can show you their screen if you want. You could collaborate together on documents. Show them the PowerPoint, the Keynote, the spreadsheets. Work together on a document. I've rehearsed speeches this way. It's just amazing. You'll save time. You'll be more productive, more focused. Your audience will be more engaged. I want you to try it right now. Absolutely free. GoToMeeting.com/MacBreak. We thank Citrix so much for their support of MacBreak Weekly. And by the way, I should have mentioned this. The iPad app is really fantastic. Uses the microphone and the speakers on the iPad, so you don't even need a phone. Moving along, let's talk about, I see you have a machine that goes bing, bing. The new social network that ain't so very social. So when Steve showed it on stage, he showed Facebook Connect and showed, you could search your Facebook friends for other Ping members. It might have even been a two-way street. Kara Swisher in All Things D says, well, here's what happened. Facebook does have an API to make that kind of data available. And if you're a small player, you can use it for free without notifying Facebook. If you're a big player, let's say you have, 160 million card-carrying members, Facebook insists on negotiating. You have to make a deal. Steve Jobs, kind of in an offhand comment to Kara after the event, said it was the deal was not a good deal. It was onerous what Facebook was asking. So without any notice, without saying anything, Apple turned off Facebook Connect, and it's not back on yet. So Ping is basically a social network that connects to only Ping. Is that a liability, Andy?
I would say so, because you really want to tap into. People have not really developed any friendships on Ping yet in the past week. All their friends are on Facebook and are on Twitter. Anytime you're trying to start any feature with social features, if you can start off by bringing in all the friends and all the relationships you've already defined, you are 30 to 40% along your way. I think Ping is going to be a very different thing if it cannot hook up to Twitter or Facebook.
One problem I've had with Ping is that I have more than one person, and others have reported this using my account. Chiefly, the guy who buys most of the music on my account is my son. He loves the rap. He loves the rap music.
I'm listening to your recommendations, and I'm thinking, you know what? Even if Leo's just buying these to work out with, that's a real pro double plus cardio workout.
Well, if you look closely, you'd see that on my profile I say I like classical music, singer-songwriter music. You know, Janice Ian, spoken word. But if you listen to the songs I buy on Ping, and notice, by the way, Robert comments on this purchase. Leo, are you trying to be funny? No, it's my son. It's my son.
That's AKA the I just got divorced after a 23-year marriage, but I'm about to get right back into the game playlist.
I am a player.
That's what the ball's for. Just get bounced.
Get down. Get funky.
You see, that's why I'm still a big wheel at the ad agency. I can speak to the youth. I speak their language. I never got old up here.
Never got old up here. The Ute of America.
With this stuff in my beard, it looks so natural, no one can tell. It's just like what the box says.
What I feel bad for is the 3,027 people who are following me, because they're obviously much confused.
Yes.
So, I've been doing Ping for, the same week that everyone else has, and I have to admit I almost don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either.
It's just it seems like Paul Kent said on Twitter earlier today that it seemed like the whole goal was to help Apple sell music.
Well,
and
duh.
I'm sure Apple wants that, but frankly, I don't give a damn.
Right.
That if I want to say if I'm playing a song in iTunes while I'm working, and I sort of want to say, this is a cool song, I'd like to tell my friends about this. First of all, it's hard to do. You can't do it from what's playing. You have to somehow find the song on the iTunes store, assuming it's even in the iTunes store. And then you have to, do a post. It's a little tricky to do for a song. It's a little easier for an album. And then people they can only listen to the 30-second preview. So it's not like you're saying to your friends, hey, this is a great song, you got to hear this. Because that's what you do with music. You say, you got to hear this, and then you play it for them.
Well, it does.
Like,
it does.
You don't
have,
play the 30 seconds and say, go buy it.
Right.
It does have two big wins. Number one is just the ability to look into the sidebar there and get a top 10 list of recommendations that are sort of this is the Billboard top 10 amongst your friends, and oftentimes that leads to really good discovery. I mean, it's actually worth my while to hit these samples and just listen to music that people in my social circle are listening to. Because
that's why I'm listening to E40's My Ghetto Report Card.
Yeah.
You were so hosed, Lee.
We are. MacBreak says we should do what to the pigs, Leo? Seems they provide vital community services.
As some have pointed out, I can turn this off in the settings, but the way I turn it off is by saying don't display music that I like, or I guess I could manually pick that. So let's get.
No, there should also be a flag for I only bought this ironically.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make fun of my sister who listens to a lot of ABBA, and I wanted to play it at maximum volume to annoy her. I don't really like ABBA.
Well, actually, that raises a good point. You could punk people too with this. So let's put some ABBA in there and Weird Al, and so now I can add all sorts of weird stuff to my list that I didn't even really buy.
We'll not hear Weird Al denigrated.
I love Weird Al. Although he tweeted just yesterday that the new iTunes is sorting all of his stuff to come up under W now instead of Y. Yeah. He said, what did I rename myself? Wankovich? Which isn't a bad idea.
That was kind of bothersome. The first time that I was trying to organize people that I know, I'm like, really? You're alphabetizing by first name? Okay, well, I've taught a class in basic programming. That's usually something we cover by the second or third class. That's why we create a first name field and a last name field. Yeah. That way we can sort on the last name field. That sort of stuff.
I have to say something here, because when you go and you say, oh, look, here's Sean King, let's see who's following Sean, and so you see it sorts it chronologically. Oh wait, no, I take it back. I'm criticizing there is indeed a sort by, because it sorts by most recent. It was one of those things where it's like, I couldn't care less what the order these people started.
Right. You want to see what he likes.
Yeah, but they did finally, Apple did add a sort A to Z and Z to A. So now you can, in fact, at least sort, of course, by first name.
I will say though that although I'm not a huge social networking fan, I use Facebook like maybe once a week just to keep things tidy. It is kind of interesting to have a constant stream of people having conversations about music, because music is one of those topics that you can have long conversations with just about anybody. And so I did find myself the first couple of days actually kind of tabbing in just to see what people were talking about. A conversation about XTC turned into a conversation about album-oriented rock stations like WBCN back in Boston. That was I kind of enjoyed that. It's an interesting fuel to have to power a social network on, and the fact that you're keeping it all within the music library app that you're going to be in to purchase and listen to your music, that makes it a little bit more convenient than simply saying, I'm going to have a Twitter button that will take me out of here and into my Twitter client, but there's no way that Twitter can really integrate tightly into this other music player.
You know who would be good? Who could do this better though is Facebook, with a buy link. Because what I don't want it to be is just the music. I want to have other conversations as well, and you have to live in iTunes to do this, right?
But do we really need to have a third huge social network now? Right now we have Facebook for the sort of private version of the web. We have Twitter for micro conversations. Doesn't that really cover everything? Wouldn't somebody have to totally upend the entire paradigm, just come up with a total new way of developing a social network that hasn't been thought of yet?
Yeah, we could call it MySpace.
Wow. I think that domain is available now.
Because really, this is who. If anybody gets disenfranchised by this, it's MySpace.
It's
right?
MySpace is. They're getting hammered by this because I mean, artists. Let's face it, they're going to want to be on iTunes because that's where the buy links are.
I was a little disappointed because I searched for many of the artists I like, and I could not find a lot of them. Maybe that's gotten better.
I have to assume that it's one of those things that Apple simply needs to do a lot more evangelism to the music community.
I suppose the music community should do. I mean, why not? If this is just a simple no-brainer. Is to have at least a page so people can follow you.
But see, here's the thing that I wonder, and this is based on what Andy was saying earlier, which is this feels to me a little like Apple putting a toe in the water. If they can figure out in this real sandbox of topic, it's all about music, you've got to be at iTunes, you can't do much of anything. They can, they don't have to worry about, spammers. They don't have to let people sign up, any of that kind of stuff. Does this let them figure out what they want to do for a social network that then becomes more general and does attempt to take on Facebook and Twitter?
Well, I don't think Apple's going to do that. Andy, you think they want to do that?
I don't think so. I just think that I think it's as simple as the fact that they realize that people have to leave the iTunes app to do something that seems to be very popular. They don't want to capture those clicks. They just want to make sure that it's a more integrated experience. I think that's really the reason why they added this.
That makes sense.
And things like the top 10 list makes it a lot easier to sell tracks. So I spent the good news for Apple is that I spent about $7 to $8 on new music within the first hour of using Ping. But the bad news is that for the 2 hours after that, I tabbed over to Amazon MP3 and bought them via MP3 as usual. So for discovery, it was working just absolutely awesome.
We'll get Alex Lindsay on next week when he comes back, because he believes that he actually blogged Ping. It's the end of the music industry, and I feel fine. He really believes that. But there's something missing here, which is unlike MySpace, where independent artists really could blossom and grow and build an audience. It's not easy for an independent artist, or is it, to be part of Ping? Don't you have to be a signed artist, or could anybody do it? I don't know.
Well, iTunes gets a lot of its independent music via CD Baby, so I don't know, and those kind of aggregators. So I don't know what the trick will be for those kind of people to get in. But if Apple's smart, they'll make people, make it easy for people to pop in.
There's no interest, though, I'm sure, on Apple's part, unless you can buy it on iTunes. Right. I mean, I am a fan of the Beatles on this, actually. So there.
Oh, did they finally show up? Because when I tried to search on the Beatles, it was all, the only connections were, it was when I was doing music I liked.
Yeah, I said, you can't do that.
I put in Beatles, it was like all this weird, fan stuff.
It's a tribute to the Beatles. Yes. The Bornangan Beatles, whoever that is. But you can follow them. So somebody, EMI, I guess, has actually created a Beatles fan page. So I guess you could, any arbitrary fan pages are possible. If you're a label, I guess. I don't know what the deal is.
Well, and here's the thing. How come no podcasters? Podcasters could have fan pages.
Because as everyone knows, podcasting is amateur hour.
Oh, sorry.
And it's not the same thing.
It's not. I'll be honest. I'm glad because it's. The last thing I need is one more social network to maintain for our fans. You know, if I were selling, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, my flight, it was a really busy trip. Matter of fact, when I got back home landed at Logan, I had to like set up shop inside the terminal and spend another 90 minutes writing and filing columns and stuff. Even then, I was ready to go home, but I thought, yeah, but you downloaded iTunes 10 last night. The download did not work, so you weren't able to visit Ping. What are the chances that someone is going to grab Ihnatko as their name? And then you'll have to be the real Ihnatko, which is the ultimate sign of being behind the curve in social media. I think I think that a lot of people are going to get into this just because they don't want to miss the boat on something. But I think that's going to be kind of a sedate, just another part of the iTunes experience in 2 or 3 months. It'll be such a colossal victory for Apple if this turns out to be anything more, anything on the level of even MySpace the way that they are right now, even the current edition of MySpace. It would be just such a huge win that I don't think we can predict that.
So when I search on the Beatles, I find the Beatles, the unofficial page for the Beatles. Obviously, there would never be an official page for the Beatles.
Okay.
Sigh.
So you can't create an unofficial page. Who can do that, though?
I'm a little curious about this because Apple says you have to have, an iTunes account with a credit card, and I know there's been some comment spam too.
Big problems with spamming, haven't there been?
Yeah, but that's got to come from people with iTunes accounts. You'd think that Apple would be slapping those people silly.
Well, I'm sure they do.
Or charging them for it.
It's like whack-a-mole, though. I mean, it's easy to create.
But it's not that easy because you have to have a credit card.
Should Apple? I do want to raise this one issue. Paul Thurrott, our Windows guy, says, and I think I agree that iTunes really is not a great program and really deserves to be rewritten. It seemed to me, if you're going to call it number 10, you deserve something a little more than a new way of looking at albums in Ping.
Well, you got grayscale on the sidebar.
Yeah, you take the color out of the icons. Ooh.
And they stacked the little close, minimize, and expand zoom buttons.
Oh,
that's got to be worthy of a major version number.
See, to me, it's 9.5 or something. I don't know if
they also it is just little enhancements. But one of the things I really liked was when you sync your iPhone or your iPad, it's now much more verbose on what the process is, how many steps along it is, and exactly what it's doing.
Yes.
So you don't just get like the sort of anonymous barber pole of destiny anymore. It is interesting though. You know that the draining of the color in the sidebar was the result of a lot of meetings and a lot of things written on whiteboards, and a lot of Chinese food being thrown across the conference room. And it came down to an idea that started off with Aperture that said the color Apple logo in the corner is distracting. We don't want the photographer's eye. The photographer with discerning taste who does not want the color should all be inside the imagery, inside the photograph. Just for this one application, we're going to take the color off the Apple logo. And soon enough, that was it for every single part of the OS experience. Maybe this is part of a new trend where they're trying to discuss that they are starting to regard color in the sidebar as a distraction from the content area. And you know that it's a philosophical question and not just an aesthetic one.
Right.
Well, one of the problems that people are getting is that all of these apps, because Apple encourages it, of course, all of these apps, they look similar, they have the same colors, they have the same sidebars. It's actually getting a little difficult to figure out which app you're in sometimes at first glance because they look so darn similar. And I'm all for interface consistency, but you do need some way of telling the difference. I mean, you look over in your dock, for instance, and you've got iChat and Skype and iTunes, and they're all these kind of round blue circles.
Yeah.
So Safari's another round blue circle.
Look at Adobe, though. I mean, Adobe doesn't even. It's almost as if they think an icon doesn't matter. They put a box with letters in it. I mean, it's like the worst icons in the world, and this is the most expensive program on my system.
I mean, they're essentially running a virtual machine, and every single thing they do on the Macintosh, they don't even really count. But I was surprised by the move with iTunes because I think that sort of breaks some of the language of the UI. The first time I launched it, I thought, oh, okay. Well, clearly all these features are now just all these playlists and devices are disabled.
Yeah.
But as soon as it finishes loading in, then I'll be able to actually click on them and activate them.
They're gray. Everything's gray. How do I know which is? Anyway, it's just an odd thing, and to spend time in Chinese food on. I don't understand it.
So either that or just they spent lots of time in Chinese food, and then Steve walked in and said, "This is stupid. Take off the color."
That's maybe that is what happened.
No. I think so what might have happened, because it's so easy to play into like this idea of how things work inside Apple, that someone like screwed up with the code and they used the wrong text view that was a totally desaturated view, and unfortunately the wrong screenshot got passed around, and like Steve signed off on it, saying great work. Then suddenly everybody's on the okay. Well, what if we take the color out of the dock icons too?
OS 10.7. It's all gray.
We'll go right back to like the Mac 128, just 1-bit graphics, fast, sophisticated. We can now build a 27-inch tablet because we don't have to worry about color space anymore.
It's 24-bit gray.
You like snow leopard? Wait till you see volcanic ash leopard. All right, let's move on. Other news in the Apple. Oh, wait a minute, I have to download the new iTunes. Can you not down if you're listening to us and say, "Oh, I want to stay with 9." Can you stay with 9?
Yep.
For how long though?
New iPod
until you need the next iOS device that requires iTunes 10 for syncing.
So at some point you're going to have to make a move.
At some point you're certainly going to have to do that. I've kept iTunes 9 on all but my main MacBook, chiefly because I just have no compelling reason to upgrade it yet. I'm sure I will at some point, but
parental controls in OS 10 can easily be bypassed by anyone. Kids, you might not want to listen to this.
not appropriate for children under.
Oh, look, there's still porn on Daddy's computer. Quick. Now, meanwhile, anyone who knows the email address of the child and his or her parent, you could fool the mail client into adding any address to the child's whitelist, as if the parent had approved the address without his or her knowledge or consent. This vulnerability can be taken advantage of by a child. So if you say, you're not going to get any more email from that girl, the kid says, yeah, right, Ma. Or by any third party, and this is what's scary, anywhere on the internet.
Yeah.
This comes from Caymans.us, and he says, I notified Apple about this vulnerability in July. Apple claimed that parental controls are only intended for young children.
Well, that's realistic.
Yeah,
Any parent who thinks that any parent who has to have a job and pay a mortgage and keep a house running and thinks that they have enough free time to keep up with their kids' knowledge of technology, it's a bad mojo.
Yeah, I do. I tell when I talk to parents about that, I say, look, you can protect your kids up to about the age of 10, but as soon as they become sophisticated about technology, they're going to get around anything you do. If only just to go to the neighbor's house and say, hey, can I use your computer for a minute? Let's take a break. Let's see what else. Is there anything else we want urgent that we'd like to talk about before we come back? Did you see this story? It's $673,000 if you were going to buy every app on the Apple's iTunes store, according to 148apps.biz. That's all, just $673,000.
That's a lot of farting.
That's true. You can take a couple bucks off.
Take a long weekend.
What is it? You can have up to 8 home screens, but you can actually have a lot more apps.
With folders, you could do that. I think it's 10 or 11 home screens, and you now have folders, right?
See, that's interesting. When right now I'm sort of looking at Android tablets that are going to be coming out in the next few months, and I'm starting to really feel as though the difference in size between these two app stores is not going to. Potentially is not all that significant when you consider that people just want to see there may be 8 or 9 specific apps they want to see, and they want to have a selection of those 8 or 9 specific apps. There's going to be maybe another dozen, maybe another 2 dozen that they'll discover and enjoy, and the rest of them may not even matter. You don't need that wide genetic diversity of application types to have a successful app store. You just need a great text editor, great media players, great navigation systems. As long as you got those covers, as long as you can grease those rails, get enough people's hands in the till. And make sure that they're making good games for your device, you're really off and running.
I think it's really almost
in some ways,
brands.
In some ways, this was the Mac, the lesson of the Mac. I mean, Mac never had as many apps as Windows, but it didn't matter because the important ones were there.
What's different here, I think, is it's also brands. You got to have Evernote, you got to have Pandora.
Yeah.
You got to have the things that people expect on a phone. You have to have a way to read Office documents. Have Office to Go or something like that. And I would say Android's got those pretty well covered, and that's not because Google's doing any outreach particularly. It's because the brands are saying, well, this is a platform we need to be on.
And it's obvious. I mean, it isn't rocket science. The niches that need to be filled are pretty darn clear,
Yes.
and it's not that hard to write for Android. It's not that hard to write for the iPhone. So people are going to fill the niches pretty quickly, and after that, it's hard to break in. I mean, I've talked to lots of iPhone developers, app developers who, even some who were very successful early on, who are now saying, it's just harder and harder to make a buck there because the big things are what everyone gets, and it's hard to be found.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the oceanfront property has already been sold, and now you got to keep moving further and further inland with every succeeding year to have a success.
Well, if that's what you're looking for, it's probably too late on Android as well. I mean, there's, I don't know, tens of thousands of apps. Enough now that it's not oceanfront.
Wait for the hurricane, though.
Yeah, right.
It might be like one of those Darwinian motions that really favors the small developer with a small idea rather than the big house with the big idea. Because if you can pursue and prosecute an idea with passion and write it in your own free time so that you're not necessarily investing $5, $10, $20, $30, $100,000 in development of the app, and then simply decide that any money that I make off of this app is found money, you have an advantage. Because if you are a real software company and you're basically budgeting out how much it's going to cost you to develop this app, and you figured out that you cannot possibly sell this app for less than $10 and hope to clear a profit, but your utility does nothing more, your app does nothing more than pull a print server and tell you what documents are in the queue, no one's going to spend $10 for that single purpose app. So
what about gaming? What about gaming? We're seeing Android games now, but still gaming. Apple still seems to have the upper hand on that.
Yeah, because of consistency of platform, it's much easier to not only consistent. It's chiefly consistency of platform, where you basically build it once, you can deploy it on every single iPhone device. Right. Whereas Android is still there. If you've got 80% of the code, you've only got 20% of your project, because the rest of your time is going to be spent fine tuning. Okay, I've got a Droid, but not a Droid X. A Droid X, but not a Droid Incredible. Now there's a Samsung that I have to deal with, and they're using different chipsets and different hardware, and they have to be optimized for each one. And now there's still, and can you trust each one of these different Android marketplace apps to simply tell the difference between, we're going to funnel you to, I can sense you have a Samsung phone, we're going to make sure that you never get to see anything that will not run properly on your phone.
That would be nice. That's something you really do need. I mean, it says it in the comments. Now, what about this? According to Fortune, .cnn.com, Steve Jobs played a little fast and loose with the numbers at the event. He claimed that the iPod Touch is the #1 portable game player in the world. And some journalists said, well, wait a minute, let's take a look at the sales numbers. As of January, Nintendo has sold 125 million, Nintendo alone, 125 million DS systems. Sony sold 62 million PSPs. So even if every iOS device that Apple claims to have sold 120 million were iPod Touches, you wouldn't even be coming close to being the most popular gaming platform. So the only way the claim could be true is if you only took a look, and this is Harry McCracken writing in Technologizer, if you only took a look at last quarter.
Right.
And maybe
it's how you slice and dice.
It's how you slice and dice. And since Apple doesn't reveal iPod Touch sales,
we
don't even know. Apple could assert really whatever it wants, but the only thing that could be conceivably be true would be just for the last quarter alone. So why would Steve say something that is so kind of blatantly fudging the numbers? Is he trying to convince developers this is a good game platform, that they should be developing for this instead of the DS?
I don't have a sense of the portable gaming market, but are there that many games for the DS and
well, I'm sure there's not even.
Sony?
I'm sure there's not close to the number of games. Maybe that's what he meant.
So it doesn't feel that, but because there's not that many games, it doesn't feel like developers are the target.
That's true. So they're trying to convince moms who are buying games for their kids,
or moms who are looking at buying a device that's going to have a lot of games, because I mean, there is, if you're a parent buying something for your kid, the last thing you want to have is say, oh, sorry, those 5 games, that's it, I'm done, I'm uninterested now.
Andy, what do you think?
I think they're just establishing their bona fides for the Game Center app and setting the stage for 4.1 when it comes out. I don't. That was not present. There are ways that I think that any CEO presents a statistic in such a way that says that I'm saying this because we are now opening a brand new chapter in this keynote in which we announce an entirely new initiative that we're extremely proud of and putting much of the hopes of the company on for the next year. And then there are the ways that say that we can make this claim. We want to use this as a way of transitioning into something else in this statement that we're going to be making next. It just didn't seem to me like the sort of thing that they want to assert that the iPod Touch is the definitive gaming platform in the universe. I went to PAX East a few months ago, and although the games for the iPod Touch are really quite awesome, I did not see many people in the crowd during the keynotes and the Q&As with iPod Touches. Everyone was using DSs.
Yeah. If you're a gamer, you buy a gaming platform. Although I have to say, I've been playing with this Citadel game that's the demo for Project Sword, and it's clear that one of the things Apple has demonstrated is that this iPad has a lot of horsepower. I mean, this is a great-looking game, or at least a great-looking walkthrough. I don't know what the game will be like.
It's weird that Apple has managed to successfully invert the gaming problem that they have on the Mac, where every game publisher will produce a game for consoles and for the PC first, and if it is so magnificently successful that they can justify the development for the Mac, you'll have a Mac edition. Now that's exactly the opposite. Everyone who wants to make a mobile game will make it on the iPhone first. If it is so magnificently successful that they can afford to produce an Android version, then they will then produce an Android version.
Yeah,
quite a coup.
Yeah, I can't wait to get this game.
Yeah,
I have to say
it's a hell of a demo. It's like you download this free thing and it just you're fumbling for your wallet. You're just throwing your wallet
I want to buy
against like a glass door because give money here, trade, barter.
I just keep saying, if they just made We Rule with the Unreal Engine, I would never stop farming.
So here's the real question. And this is something that's been bandied around a lot with Android, obviously lots of different devices, different versions of Android itself. And people are saying, a lot of the pundits are now saying, well, it's just a matter of time before Android overwhelms the iOS and iOS devices because there's just going to be so many more of them. And it feels to me like a different situation than the Macintosh Microsoft battle of yesteryear. But
it's similar, though, isn't it?
It's similar, yeah. It's not exactly the same because Apple's kind of leading from a position of strength, whereas before I don't think Apple really ever had that that huge first mover and market share advantage. But on the other hand, Google's licensing to everyone in sight. Everyone in sight is building these tablets. You're seeing these tablets showing up for $99. They probably suck. I don't know, but they're going to be cheap.
Smarties candies.
There's going to be a lot of competition because now we're starting to see the beginning of the marketing, and they're going to spend $400 million on advertising alone for Windows Mobile 7. That's coming out in a couple of months. As you said, there's going to be tablets from everybody, including Toshiba, BlackBerry, Samsung.
I really think that the only real competition I see for Apple in the next 2 years is HP, because they're the only people who have all the components necessary to produce a credible threat. Because they bought the WebOS, that means that they can control the entire WebOS experience, much like Apple can control the entire iOS experience. Google can overwhelm with sheer numbers, but the fact that they have so many different devices out there that are going to be lagging behind on two different levels, both in hardware level and OS level, I really don't think that they can sell and market and have the same influence as iOS does. I mean, we have a whole bunch of a couple of really good tablets I've had in for the past couple months now, and some of them are shipping with Android 1.6, some are shipping with 2.1, 2.2, and then there's going to be 3.0, which is going to be the first real tablet enhanced version of Android. And so Google will announce it, Google will release it, and then I'll have to wait patiently to see when is my tablet going to be upgraded to 2.2 or 3.0. And then you start talking about the problems of incompatibilities between software. So what I mean by that is that the fact that Android will almost certainly always have higher numbers in terms of devices in the field, I don't think they have the possibility of having the same sort of influence that Apple can have with iOS. HP is the only one that can really pull that together.
And do you think HP can pull it together? Because
I think so, because they have this. The second component is that they are a consumer electronics company. They're not a company that releases software and encourages people to visit a URL. They are a company that can get this into every Staples, every Office Max, every Sears, every Best Buy, every big box store. They can saturate the TV with ads. They
can.
Make sure
this is HP we're talking. I mean, let's face it. They're the blue iPod people. I mean, they don't do consumer electronics well.
Oh boy, go walk in. Really walk into any Best Buy with $800. I guarantee you that the 2 or 3 best notebooks, the 2 or 3 best notebooks are going to be HP devices. Yep. And the fact that they decided to buy buy Palm and buy WebOS instead of trying to say, well, we'll just use Android and adapt it, or we'll have someone else. We'll try to do a Windows 7 in a mobile tablet sphere. The fact that they decided we'll write the biggest check we've ever written in our lives. We'll keep the office chairs, keep the ping pong tables, keep the guy that the senior mentor guy. We'll buy him off. All we want is your really cool OS and the people who know how to build it. That tells me that they got a really good plan.
Well, all I can say is I want to see competition. I don't want to see Apple taken down a notch. I just want to see competition. It's good for everybody, including Apple. It promotes innovation. It promotes lower prices, and it keeps them on their toes.
Oh, absolutely, and that's 100% agreed on that, because it is really the case that iOS needs to improve. iOS devices need to improve, and it's not that they're bad. It's just that Apple can't be allowed to be sitting at the top, all fat and happy.
I'm willing to bet that Steve knows that. Remember Andy Grove wrote the book "Only the Paranoid Survive." He was the CEO of Intel, and I think Steve is in that group. In fact, I remember Steve talking when he was still at Pixar about how Apple lost its lead, that Apple owned GUIs in 1984, and it let Microsoft catch up. And he said within 10 years, Microsoft caught up, and because Apple sat on its haunches. So I think Steve has learned the lessons of that, and is pretty aware of it. So I don't imagine he's sitting on his hind quarters. On the other hand, he has a clear vision, and then it's interesting that he chose not to compete, not to be driven by things like Google TV. But
the other thing that I always go back to with Steve Jobs is the Accidental Empires book by Robert X. Cringely way back when in the early 90s. And he talks about, the difference between Steve Jobs and Bill Gates is that Steve Jobs wants to change the world. And it doesn't. The money is actually not really that relevant to him. I mean, he obviously cares because that's evidence that you're doing.
Steve wants to win, though. Let's face it. He's very competitive.
Well, it's just that he wants to win, but he wants to win by being the guy who changed the world.
He's content with a smaller market share, you mean?
Yeah. Because the iPhone and the iOS, as Andy says, there's almost no way that the iOS devices can maintain the market share against, 100 different equipment manufacturers. That it's almost not possible.
Right.
But at the same time, particularly if iOS and the iOS devices keep pushing the envelope so that everyone's playing catch up to Apple all the time, then it won't matter. And honestly, what we will probably see is a couple of years where everyone tries to, and then everyone's going to drop off because it's not worth it. I mean, look at the number of portable music players out there now. People tried for a while to keep up with the iPad, and then they gave up. The iPod just ate everyone for lunch.
Right.
But
that's not going to, I have to tell you, that's not going to happen. It hasn't happened in the phone space. It might happen in the pad space, but it's not going to happen in the phone space.
It'll take a while longer still, I think.
It took him 2 years to make a credible competitor to the iPhone. I think there's a lot of good choices out there.
Also, a phone is a much more personal and idiosyncratic device than a music player. Music player is something you dip into a couple times a day. You don't really rely on your music player. People have a lot higher expectations for
the phone has become the music player, hasn't it? I mean, how many people carry a separate music player, right?
That's true. But you talk about things like, is the virtual keyboard on the iPhone enough for you? Do you want a mechanical keyboard like on the Droid X or on the BlackBerry, or do you want a really advanced virtual keyboard like the Swipe system, which is just I love Swipe. If Apple is $20 short to license this technology for the iPhone, I got the $20.
I got you 20 right here, Steve.
I love it. Yeah,
Swipe is great. In fact, I keep seeing articles from people saying, I just saw an article yesterday saying, Well, Android's fine, but it doesn't have the. It lacks. You know, the iPhone has so much over it, and I just don't buy that. Who was it wrote that article? It's not. I'm sorry, but when I go back to the iPhone, I feel like it's lacking. To be honest.
No, I disagree.
We disagree. I know.
I think it's interesting that my appreciation for Android really went up a notch when I started playing with the newer like 4-inch with the newer larger size screens.
Yeah.
Because I thought that the Android UI and the Android OS lacks sophistication, lacks a certain amount of elegance, and so when you try to make it fit on a tiny screen, it works that much worse. When you make it a little bit larger, you give the UI a little bit more room to breathe. You're not changing anything, but just making the screen larger and giving my finger larger targets. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens when you turn this into a 9.7-inch screen. That if it will make even more sense when you make it larger. I mean, kudos to Apple that they made a basic OS that will work on just about anything you put it on. But at the end of the day, it's whatever works.
We're going to take a break and come back in just a minute with your picks of the week, gentlemen. And we got you on such short notice, Adam.
Okay, I'll scramble again.
Good. I knew you could find something. Maybe AutoCAD. I bet you there's a lot of...
Probably not AutoCAD, but nonetheless.
A lot of people very happy to see AutoCAD coming back.
My hobby is designing water treatment plants, and with a special event on bivalvular fittings,
Do read Tidbits this week because there's an article about it. AutoCAD is back on the Mac, and that's kind of an interesting shift after a long time.
Yeah, I have to say the first comment we got on that was we're an Autodesk shop and we hate it. Actually, we like AutoCAD. We hate everything else about Autodesk.
We don't really want to use it, but we do. We have to. Let's talk about Squarespace right now. This is something people not only want to use but love to use. If you go to squarespace.com right now and give it a gander, I think you'll be pretty impressed. Squarespace is the secret behind exceptional websites. It's hosting, yes, but much more than just hosting. It's software that makes it easy to create content. It gets out of the way, whether you're a photographer, a blogger, even if you're just selling something. Squarespace looks gorgeous, is easy to use. In fact, those templates that they start with are so easy to customize that every Squarespace site looks like a professional designed it. Goes way beyond what other blogging engines look like. I mean, just go to the examples page and take a look. And all of this for $8 a month. Now, you could try it free right now for 15 days. You don't even need a credit card. Just go to squarespace.com/MacBreak. You can import your data from your existing blog, movable typepads, Blogger, WordPress. Actually, this is, I know a lot of you are Vox refugees. Very sad to see Vox moving on. And you might want to take a look at, Vox will move you over to TypePad. Very nice solution, but Squarespace has some real advantages you might want to take a look at. Squarespace.com. Try it free for 2 weeks. Why not? What do you got to lose? And if you decide, hey, you know what? I do like this, make sure you use MacBreak as the offer code because that'll save you 10% off every month for the life of your site. Starting at $8 a month, true cloud hosting, beautiful designs, stats, integration with social media, and more. This is the future platform, if you ask me. Squarespace.com. Use the promo code MacBreak. We thank them so much for their support of MacBreak Weekly. Andy Ihnatko, we're gonna give Adam some time. Give me some time too. I need some time. Why don't you start off with your pick of the week, Andy?
I haven't done an iPad or an iPhone app in a few weeks, and I just wanted to. And as I was thinking this, oftentimes, like what I don't think to recommend are the things I really love, but I just use it so often that it's like I'm going to recommend my baseball cap. Oh wait, no, you do love that. That is actually a Mac or iPad.
It's compatible.
My recommendation is an app called Emerald Observatory. It's an iPad app that. It is the most incredible, just like static display.
Wow, look at that.
What it is, let me see if I might have to turn off some lights here to get rid of the glare. I have my iPad usually lives like in my kitchen or on the corner of my desk when I'm not using it. And I was looking for something really cool to just be running on it when I'm not actually using it. So that would be doing something interesting and useful. So what it is, okay, look at the hands. That is actually a clock. So you can get the time off of it. But it is a complete and detailed astronomical clock in which you will get the phases of the moon. You will get what sections of the day and night over the entire planet. Of course, time in multiple zones. And I don't think I will have any chance of letting you see this this, but it actually has, it would take a long time to show you everything that this thing does. Every single one of those little bands represents another one of the planets. And so you can basically tell that at any given time during the night, if the hand is like in the middle of one of those bands, then you know that Jupiter is visible somewhere in the night sky. So for this, of course, this changes like minute by minute, second by second over the course of the year. So if you're curious as to what planets are visible right now, you can see, just check in this little band and see exactly which ones are there. I'm not going to lie and claim that the big feature of this is much more than it's a really, really cool looking clock. But there are times when I will be looking at it and it will occur to me that, oh wow, it's full moon tonight, or hey, well, right, it looks like I'll be able to see like 4 planets. Look, there are actually 4 planets that are kind of like in the night sky tonight. I wonder where I can find them, where I can see them. And so it's just perfect eye candy, and it's the sort of thing that kind of gets your imagination going.
It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. How much is it?
And it's also, it is, I have to believe, I've been using it for a while. I have to actually double check it.
I would just leave that up as a clock. I mean, it's gorgeous.
I mean, it's like the perfect thing to have going when you're. It's actually, believe it or not, it is just 99 cents.
Oh, I'm buying it right now. That's great.
It is the perfect thing to have the screen doing when you're not playing Netflix, you're not looking up a recipe,
right.
You're not checking your email. Because it's just a beautiful design. I am so in awe of people who can design interactive informational products like this, where it's easy to just do something that's kind of pretty and kind of interesting, but something that introduces so much information all at once. And yet, if you just want to see what time it is, boom, it is very easy to find that it is actually just 10 minutes to 4 right now. But
what's the name of it again?
It's called Emerald Observatory for iPad. It's made by a company called Emerald Sequoia. Boy,
that's 99 cents. It's just nice shot. By the way,
no.
Nice shot of Andy's eyebrows there. All right, I'm backing off.
You are powerless to resist, for you are the moth and I am the flame.
Yes, my lord and master.
Someday I'll have a 2-camera setup for demos like this.
No, that was great. I think that the fact that you can even do that is amazing.
Right. But
Emerald
anyway,
Observatory, 99
so again,
cents. Good deal.
it's usually usually the day before we record, I start thinking about, I have little reminders. Oh, by the way, make sure you have a pick ready to go. And sometimes I can't think of something that I really feel passionate about, and then I'm actually looking around the office like, oh yeah, that thing you've been using every day for the past 3 weeks, and keep thinking about, my God, that's well designed. Maybe you could recommend that thing, Andy. Oh yeah, good one.
If you've got your iPad plugged in, can you just leave it on? I mean, can you prevent it from going to sleep with that?
Yeah, if you want to keep it plugged in, it will stay obviously it'll stay persistent. You can obviously change the power settings so that won't dim and won't go to sleep.
Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, especially if you have this is sort of my inspiration for wanting to actually have a picture frame sort of thing, just literally hanging in the middle of a wall instead of just sitting on an easel at the desk. So again, really great stuff.
There's your pick, Emerald Observatory for the iPad, 99 cents. And now,
and also it makes a great watch too.
As you can see, it makes a great watch. I'm sending my iPad Nano back. What was I thinking? I already have a wristwatch.
Bigger battery in the iPad. You won't have to recharge it quite so often.
True.
This is smart.
Adam Engst, your pick of the week, my friend.
Okay. I've got show and tell.
Good. I like
it took me a minute, but okay. So my show and tell is actually this little device, which is not iPad specific, but it works awfully well with the iPad. Notice this thing on the back of my iPad here. Let me get it.
It's a little hand.
It's a hand. What it is called the Handy Holder, and what it is it's sort of a super duper Velcro thing that attaches to the back of your iPad, and then it lets you hold your iPad in a hand holder like this.
Interesting.
And it rotates. So you don't have to be moving your hand around. So you can be walking around doing anything you want with your iPad and no worries about it falling. The company that makes these actually has videos of them playing ping pong with iPads.
Not recommended.
They're clearly anticipating selling a lot of these.
So I was like, man, I hit the table way too often to play ping pong with my iPad. Not worried about falling, but it's this cute little device, and then because this thing, it obviously adds a little bit to the back there. But it's a rigid circle here. So they sell a bunch of different stands, and I don't have too many of them here. But here's one. Actually, let me extract it from the side of my desk. They sell a bunch of stands that, like this. This one's a C clamp, so you can clamp it onto a desk or a table, and then the iPad just slots right in like that.
Wow.
And so they've got another stand that you can actually attach to a wall. They've got a clamp one where you can.
I want one for my bike. Can I put one on my bike?
I don't think they have the bike one yet. You know, it's.
Then I can watch movies while I bicycle. That's what I really want to do.
Make sure you download the insurance company app for the iPad if you're going to use it that way, though. Adam, they make a suction cup mount for it?
They do not make a suction cup mount for it. I think they were not happy with the certain kinds of things. I actually also asked them about a gooseneck, and they said the goosenecks, the quality wasn't there. And so, but they've got a bunch of them. They've got a tripod mount. They've got one that just you can literally screw into a wall, so you can have your pho frame. You just pick your iPad and just slot it in, and you can pop that little hand thing off anytime you want. So there's leaving just a very, very, very thin little kind of pseudo Velcro ring on the back of your iPad, so it doesn't really mess up the iPad, and it doesn't get in the way of docking it in the keypad dock. So it's kind of cute. I've been using it for about a week, and I like it a lot. Obviously, it's not iPad specific in any way. So if there's any other clipboard or whiteboard or thing where you want it on your hand without being able to drop it, without having to sit there and hold it, that's pretty cool. The guy who developed it actually developed it. I was amused to discover this. He was a runner, and also he timed races, and he actually had some guys I know build an app for him that would allow, this is people at big races, allow like spectators and finishers, they have volunteers wandering around after the race, and they could say, oh, here's your results. You'd go up to them and you'd say, I'm racer, number 853, and they'd have the iPad, and they'd just type in your number, and they'd say, look, here's your results. Or during the race, they could show your family if they knew your number, things like that. And the problem he ran into was he had these volunteers with iPads, and they were constantly worried about dropping the damn things. And so, being able to have something where it's just sitting there, you don't have to put any effort into holding it, and nice and easy. So. And the iPad is a little slippery, honestly. That I sort of prefer the glass or the plasticky feel of the iPhone for holding. The aluminum just slides right off my fingertips. So handy holder, that's my pick of the week.
It's a good pick. I like it. Have I picked RDO before? I think I have. Andy, do you remember if I talked about it?
I'm not sure if you have. Not on MacBreak.
Then I should mention it because we were waiting to see if Apple was going to do a subscription service. They didn't. We're still waiting for Google to do its Google Music. They still haven't. And I've looked with envy at people like in Europe who have Spotify, which allows you to kind of subscribe, or people with a Zune allow you to subscribe and pay a monthly fee and get all the music you want. There is a choice available on the iPhone. They have only an iPhone app, but it looks fine on the iPad. It's just you have to do it double size. RDIO radio. No, it's from the folks at Juiced, and they say it's RDO. I really want to call it radio. I really do. You can try it free for 3 days. You see that I haven't extended my 3-day trial because I'm not sure I want to spend the $10 to $15 a month it costs to listen, but you can. It's very much like having iTunes available to you. Pretty much anything, any artist that you'd want, you add, you download. You can play in a cached as well as streaming, and as long as you continue your subscription, it's available for you. If you want to not, if you've been looking for an iTunes subscription service, and you've been kind of disappointed that Apple still doesn't seem to want to offer one, oddly enough, they have enabled RDO to do it. And they've approved the application, which maybe is a statement that they don't ever want to do it. Good choice, I think. I really like RDIO.com. I have a lot of music, so I don't know if I really want to pay for it. But
and what's the difference between this and Rhapsody?
Similar to Rhapsody. I like it a little bit better because I like the interface better. I like how it works a little bit better. Rhapsody might be cheaper. I should look at the price because Rhapsody is $10, right?
says here the plans here on Rdio start at $4.99. At least
$4.99 though is there's some limitations on the $4.99. I think it's $15 for the one that's comparable to Rhapsody. I have to check. Certainly worth looking at. You can do Rhapsody and you can do Rdio and you for both for free.
Rdio Unlimited is $9.99 a month.
$9.99. So it's the same as Rhapsody. Yeah. Okay.
It's not bad.
I mean, U.S. only. If you're out of the U.S., you got Spotify, so don't give me a hard time, okay? And the quality's good. Sounds good. The truth is, I'm still using Pandora because I don't want to pick the songs. I like the way Pandora plays them for me. But if you want a music that you picked, right?
If I knew what to pick, I'd play my own music.
Exactly. I want radio.
I wouldn't want to speak for Chris Breen, but it really made an impression on me when after the Apple keynote last week, there was a tweet from him saying that, okay, I was hoping they'd announce iTunes streaming. They didn't, so I'm now subscribing to Rdio.
Yeah. Yep.
And if Chris Breen doesn't like something, it ain't worth knowing about. If Chris Breen likes it, it is instantly on your radar.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the reasons I've been slow to recommend this is because I keep thinking Apple will do this. They bought Lala. They have the capability, clearly, but they've decided not to do this. It does Pandora-like recommendations as well. Since, I say I like Joni Mitchell, it says, well, you ought to try Randy Newman. I like Leonard Cohen. You might want to try Richard Thompson or Nick Drake. And they're okay. They're not great, but it does give you at least some Pandora-like stuff to choose from.
So why is it better than Spotify and Rhapsody?
Well, Spotify's not in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
Rhapsody, I think the sound quality is better than Rhapsody, personally. And,
okay.
But I guess you should try them both and see which one you like. How about that?
Okay.
There you go. There's my recommendation. Adam Engst is the man behind Tidbits. 20 years now, still the must-read Macintosh periodical. Comes out every week. If you go to tidbits.com, you can read it online, but you can also subscribe and have it in your mailbox. And it's absolutely free. He also does some great PDFs that are not free, but very affordable. The In Control series is really fantastic. And if you go to tidbits.com, you could find it there too, right, Adam?
Yeah. Small link, but it's one of those things where every time we try to figure out how to take control links on the Tidbits site, people don't see them when they're large and ad-like looking. So now we just have a small one, and then they say, "Hey, we can't find it." We're like, "Look, dude, we can't figure it out." Search on Google on Take Control. We're the top hit.
Yeah, there you go. That's the easiest thing, probably, isn't it?
Yeah,
search for Take Control.
We've given up. I mean, it used to be for a while we were worried because we couldn't get takecontrol.com because it goes to margarine. But, so it is takecontrolbooks.com, but, Google has according to the Google, we are what goes with Take Control, not margarine.
Forget that margarine thing.
So that should give us the domain, right?
Yeah. Well, you don't need the domain. You got the Google.
That's
all you need.
It's domain.
I don't have twit.com. I don't need it. I got the Google.
Still a scary amount of trans fats for PDF file, though, Adam.
I have to say.
I wasn't going to go out and say that.
No, this is all local organic electrons. I'm sorry. we are small, but we're local vor PDFs only.
Actually, if there really were local, like a sustainable print product, Tidbits would be it. Absolutely.
Hey, Tanya, I mean, we haven't done this yet, but Tanya really, really wants at some point to get a booth at the Ithaca Farmers Market.
You should.
for Take Control ebooks. And I was like, and what are we going to give them?
Just tell them Google us.
Yeah, Google us. Here's your PDF, sir.
No, really, this is the organic publication. Tidbits.com. Thank you so much for showing up on such short notice. We really love having you on, Adam. It's great to have you.
You're very welcome. It was a good time.
Andy Ihnatko is the man behind the Chicago Sun-Times. He does it all, ladies and gentlemen. Really? He writes the whole paper, actually.
I'll do the drywall. I'll do the plaster. I'll do the finished carpentry. Really, let Ihnatko Home Solutions be your answer to home handyman problems.
Not licensed or contact rate approved. www.cwob.com is his website. Andy, great to talk to you once again. You don't need to come out for tomorrow's Google announcement. I just don't think it's going to be worth the flight.
I don't think so. I came this close to getting a free $400 flight voucher last week when flights got a little bit screwed up. Had I gotten that, then yeah, I would have seen the hand of divine providence directing me to attend the Google event. However, the hand of divine providence being not in evidence, I think I'm going to be staying.
I do have to say there is one, in my at least least my eyes, my limited purview, there is one reason to go to the Google event. I was invited to that one.
Leo,
They'll
what are
probably
you
food.
not going to do during the event, Leo?
I'm not going to stream live. I'm not going to stream live. I'm not going to stream live.
There you go. Okay, good. See, Apple, Leo lives, Leo learns.
I live in room. It's all right. I'm not going to humble myself by begging.
You could bring your iPad and kind of swing it around a lot. So.
There's no camera in it. Had I had the iPhone at the time, I probably could have done it with the iPhone. It would have been a little less obvious. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We do this show live every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 1800 UTC. That's 2 p.m. on the Eastern Coast, in the Ithaca time frame. At live.twit.tv. You can chat with us, as always, 24/7.
We have our own time zone, too.
Do you?
You don't use 3s or 7 because they're frivolous and unnecessary. Why don't we make do with less?
When we lived in Seattle, the Fremont district, which was kind of the artists district, did in fact have a sign as you entered the district saying, new time zone, Fremont Standard Time.
It's just 17 and a half minutes different.
Everything's 21 minutes late because they're kind of baked.
Do the calculations in your head.
Yeah.
If you can. If you can, you're not baked enough. You can subscribe also by going to twit.tv/MBW. We'll be back next Tuesday. Alex Lindsay, I think, will be back in studio with us. Stay tuned. Net at Night is coming up next. And don't forget, every Monday through Friday, starting at 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern, Tom Merritt and Tech News Today, our daily news roundup. It includes Now with Mac News. That was a joke. Thanks for joining us. Get back to work. Break time is over.